Now, what are the laws in Islam pertaining to an abandoned child picked up from the street, or picked up in this case from the well? Now, the basis for the laws pertaining to picking up and attending to an abandoned child are based on the general principles embodied in the Holy Quran and the Sunnah. Like, for example, verse 77 of Al-Hajj, where Allah says, do good so that you may attain felicity. And this is a general verse which enjoins all acts of good. وَافْعَلُوا الْخَيْرَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. Secondly, when Allah commands us to cooperate with one another in the doing of good and acts of piety. The first one was verse 77 of Al-Hajj. Second one, verse 2 of Al-Ma'idah, which talks about التعاون على البر والتقوى. Verse 2 of Al-Ma'idah. Thirdly, verse 32 of Al-Ma'idah, whoever preserves the life of a single soul, it is as though he has saved the lives of all of mankind. Remember, the brother was saving the life, and the hadith which we just read just now. So thirdly, preserving the life of a single soul. This is from the Quran. As for the Sunnah, its basis is firstly the command, the prophetic command, the injunction, the encouragement to remove the difficulty of a fellow believer. As narrated by Imam Muslim, and this is a well-known hadith that we all, I think most of you will be familiar with, in which the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man nafasa an mu'minin kurbatan min kurbi dunya, nafasa Allahu anhu kurbatan min kurabi yawm al-qiyamah, wa man yassara ala mu'sirin yassara Allahu alayhi fi dunya wal akhirah, wa man satara musliman satarahu Allahu fi dunya wal akhirah, wallahu fi awni al-abdi ma kana al-abdu fi awni akhihi." Until the end of the narration is pretty long. Whoever alleviates an affliction from the afflictions of the world from a believer, you remove that problem he has, the trouble he has. Allah would remove from him an affliction from the afflictions of the Day of Judgment. You help him in this world, remove this problem. You have a problem in Akhirah, Day of Judgment, Allah will remove it from you. Whoever alleviates the hardship of a poor man, Allah would make his affairs easy in the world and the next. Somebody is poor, desperate, you help him, make things easy. Allah will make things easy for you in this world and the next world. And whoever covers the faults of a believer, Allah would cover his faults in this world and the hereafter. Allah's assistance is always close to his servant as long as his servant is helping his brother. You help your fellow brother, Allah will be helping you. Until the end of this hadith narrated from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then we also have in the Sunnah the words of the Prophet recorded by Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah. وَأَنَا وَكَافِلُ الْيَتِيمِ فِي الْجَنَّةِ هَكَذَا. And then he pointed with his pointing and the middle finger, وَأَشَارَ بِالسَّبَّابَةِ وَالْوُسْطَى وَفَرَّجَ بَيْنَهُمَا شَيْئًا. I would be together with the guardian of the orphan in paradise, like this, and he gestured with his middle, pointing and middle finger with a gap between them. Thirdly, the narration recorded of Imam At-Tirmidhi rahimahullah, "Man la yarhamin nasa la yarhamhu Allah." Whoever does not show mercy to men does not receive the mercy of Allah. So this is the basis of this. And this duty of picking up an abandoned child is fardu kifaya. It's a collective obligation, which means that if he is left unattended, the entire community sins. Recently I received on WhatsApp a video of some people in America. There are some children who were Muslim children, I think they were refugees or abandoned children in some center. and they got together and told the American government, we will take care of them voluntarily. So they were doing exactly this, and it's something which is it's a very good act. Now if someone picks him up and attends to his needs and upbringing, then this collective responsibility, this fardu kifaya, has been exercised. And the person who does so earns a great reward, as implied in those hadith and the verses of the Quran previously mentioned. The person who picks up the child must call for witnesses and make a report so that an attempt to locate his parents can be made. Declaration of that which is found on the child from belongings, etc., must also be made, just as declaration of all found items is obligatory. Look at whatever you find, you must declare. Now this is to ward off any accusations and liabilities. How does the person do that? Well, the person uses the services the state provides, like advertising in newspapers and reporting to relevant authorities. Those days they used to do it at the mosque. On the Fridays they will do it. There are conditions pertaining to the permissibility of the laqit, the child that is picked up, remaining with the person who picked him up. If the abandoned child is a Muslim, he cannot remain with a non-believer. Secondly, this is according to Imam Shafi'i. Secondly, he cannot be allowed to remain with a person who is known for his sinful ways and his lack of trustworthiness. Thirdly, the guardian must have full mental and legal capacity. And fourthly, the guardian cannot travel with the child to another country. This is to ensure that the child is not sold to slavery or prostitution or suffer from a compromise of rights. Nowadays, these laws are being practiced in all countries. You bring somebody else's child, you'll be stopped at the airport because they think you're doing child trafficking. The person who decides upon and enforces these conditions is the judge appointed by the state or state government authority appointed by the ruler. Now this is based on the theological principle. Al-Hakimu waliyu man la waliya lah. The ruler or the state is the guardian of he who has no guardian. The guardian for the abandoned child must thus be appointed and sanctioned by the Islamic court. This is in an Islamic land. The expenses of the child when he is in the presence of the guardian or the caregiver, who is responsible? If the child was found with money on him, the caregiver spends on him from that money. The monthly expenses would be fixed by the state and the guardian cannot exceed them without prior permission. If he does, he would have to compensate the child. If the abandoned child does not have any possessions, then a sum of money as a monthly or yearly expense would be allotted from the state treasury, from the Baitul Mal. The second Caliph, Khalifa, Umar ibn Khattab radhiyallahu anhu, had consulted the Prophet's companions on this matter. And they had all agreed that the state treasury, the Baitul Mal, should provide for the expenses. Besides the consensus of the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet, the basis of this can also be derived from the following two prophetic narrations recorded by Imam al-Bukhari. Firstly, that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam had said, "Man taraka malan faliwarathatihi, wa man taraka kallan fa ilayna." Whoever leaves behind wealth, it is for his inheritors. Whoever leaves behind debt or liability, we, meaning the Prophet who was the leader of the believers sallallahu alaihi wasallam, shall be responsible for it. Secondly, this is part of the narration, فَمَنْ تُوفِيَ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ فَتَرَكَ دَيْنًا فَعَلَيَّ قَضَاؤُهُ وَمَنْ تَرَكَ مَالًا فَلِوَرَثَتِهِ. In this hadith, the Messenger ﷺ, he said, whoever passes away from the believers and leaves behind debt, its settlement is upon me, upon him ﷺ, meaning he said, I will settle it from the Baytul Mal, and whoever leaves wealth, it is for his inheritors. This expenditure is the right of the abandoned child. And he cannot be asked to repay the treasury after he has grown up and become rich. He cannot say, if Baitul Mal paid you, you have to pay back. No. If the Baitul Mal, the state treasury, runs out of funds, or the funds have to be used for more important purposes, you cannot allocate to abandoned children. The ruler can borrow from the rich, and the state would then guarantee that sum of money. Or the ruler can impose extra taxes, which are discouraged unless extremely necessary. It is not for the caregiver or guardian to give the child his name. Meaning you cannot say, son of me. I picked you up, but you are not my son. You cannot do that. This is because lineage is only through marital relationships, and lineage is linked to rights such as inheritance, compulsory expenditure, nafaqah, and also marriage. Because you can marry your mahram. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions this in verses 4 and 5 of Surah Al-Ahzab, and you can read about it. So Allah says, Allah has not made your adopted children your sons. وَمَا جَعَلَ عَدْعِيَاءَكُمْ أَبْنَاءَكُمْ ذَلِكُمْ قَوْلُكُمْ بِأَفْوَاهِكُمْ. That is what you say with your mouths, meaning as a habit. وَاللَّهُ يَقُولُ الْحَقَّ وَيَهْدِي السَّبِيلَ. Allah says the truth and He guides you to the right way. أُدْعُوهُمْ لِآبَائِهِمْ. Call them by the names of their fathers. هُوَ أَقْسَطُ إِنَّ اللَّهِ. And that is more just in Allah's presence. فَإِن لَمْ تَعْلَمُوا آبَاءَهُمْ فَإِخْوَانُكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ. If you do not know their fathers, then they are your brothers in faith and your helpers, وَمَوَالِيكُمْ, until the end of those verses. In a narration recorded by Imam al-Bukhari on the authority of Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu, he said he heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, there is not a man who falsely alleges that he is the child of another, or he's a child of other than his biological father. So he knows that he is the son of Ahmad, but he said, no, I'm the son of Mahmud, for example. A man who falsely alleges that he is the child of other than his biological father, except that he would have been guilty of a sin tantamount to disbelief. Whoever claims that he belongs to a people with whom he has no links should prepare to take his place in hellfire, which means to claim other than your rightful lineage is a major sin. Now this verse 10 of this chapter, ends with this statement, In kuntum fa'ilin. So his brother is saying, if you are all going to carry out what you have intended against Yusuf, then that's the thing that you should do. Put him in that well. So this was an effort to discourage. For it implies that the best would be not to harm him, but if you are bent on implementing your plans, then don't go beyond just throwing him into the well. After they had agreed and decided to carry out their plan, they approached their father, saying to him, which is verse 11, قالوا يا أبانا ما لك لا تعملنا على يوسف وإنا له لناصحون. They said, "Oh, our father, why do you not trust us with Yusuf alayhi salam? And we are indeed his sincere well-wishers." We are indeed his sincere well-wishers. Now here, those who learn tajweed, in this part of the verse, la ta'manna, you have what is known as the ishmam. Okay, so you can go to your teachers and tajweed, because the origin of this ta'manna is like ta'manuna. Okay, so the teacher may explain it to you. So that's why you have this symbol. If you go to verse 11, you will see a symbol in the Mus'haf to tell you about this law of tajweed. Now this was an attempt by the brothers of Yusuf to seduce their father, to allow them to take Yusuf to the grazing pastures. They probably they used to bring their flock of sheep there. And it must have been at a distance from the home, for which reason Yusuf alayhi salam had never accompanied them due to his young age. Now, although this verse tends to imply that it was the habit of Yaqub alayhi salam not to trust them with Yusuf, the distance and safety factors appears more realistic, although he may have also, out of his love for Yusuf, not entrusted him to the care of anyone. Didn't want to part with him. Now, rearing sheep was the occupation of the prophets, shepherds, as mentioned by the final Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, this episode and that of Musa alayhi salam and the daughters of Shu'aib in Surah Al-Qasas in the Holy Quran supports this. In a narration recorded by Imam al-Bukhari, the authority of Abu Hurairah from the Prophet ﷺ, who said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had not appointed a messenger except that he had reared sheep. مَا بَعَثَ اللَّهُ نَبِيًّا إِلَّا رَعَى الْغَنَمَ. His companion said, Ridwanullah alayhim, "And you, O Messenger of Allah?" He said, "Yes." He replied, "Yes. I used to attend to sheep for the dwellers of Makkah for carats of gold," that means for payment. Take care of the sheep. So this was the practice of the prophets, and so did the final messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam strongly encourage enterprise work. In a narration recorded by Imam al-Bukhari, the authority of Al-Miqdam from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who said, "No one would eat food more wholesome, more better than that which he has earned with his hands." And the Prophet of Allah, Dawood alayhi salam, used to eat from that which he earned with his hands. The sons of Yaqub alayhi salam continued with the appeal. They are trying to tell their father, "Let Yusuf come with us." They continued with the appeal by saying, "Arsilhu ma'ana gadan," send him with us tomorrow. Why? "Yarta' wa yal'ab wa inna lahu lahafidhun," so that he may enjoy himself and play, and we would be his protectors. We will take care of him. Now they had made an expert and cunning approach from two angles. Firstly, they knew it would have been difficult for their father to say to his own sons that he did not trust them, and so half the battle was won. Half the battle was won. Secondly, they mentioned that they were bringing him out so that he may enjoy himself and play, which all children love to do. A loving parent always wants the happiness of his child. And so Yaqub alayhi salam succumbed to their request, as we would soon find out. But only after expressing his fears. He told them he's afraid that something will happen to them. Which is verse 13. قال إني لا يحزنني أن تذهبوا به وأخاف أن يأكلها الذئب وأنتم عنه غافلون. He said عليه السلام, it does indeed sadden me that you bring Yusuf with you, and I fear that a wolf may eat him while you are unmindful of him. You know, you never take care of him, you somewhere else, and then the wolf comes and eats. So when the brethren of Yusuf alayhi salam sought that their father allows them to take Yusuf with them, he responded with two reasons or two excuses. Firstly, that parting company with Yusuf alayhi salam saddened him. So this statement by Yaqub alayhi salam underlines the extent of his attachment to Yusuf alayhi salam, which was the very reason that the rest of them were envious of him and bore enmity towards him. Secondly, that he feared that a wolf would eat him up. Now, what was the basis of this fear? It has been mentioned that Yaqub alayhi salam had seen in a dream that he was on the peak of a mountain at the very top, looking down upon Yusuf alayhi salam, who was in a desert, being attacked by 11 wolves, and that Yusuf alayhi salam disappeared in their midst. He had thus feared that harm would come to him because of that dream. For the dreams of prophets are true. It has also been said that the area was littered with wolves, and it was perhaps common that they attacked their animals and children. It could even have been a premonition, a sixth sense, aided by spiritual excellence called firasa, with regard to which the Prophet ﷺ said in a narration recorded by Imam al-Tirmidhi on the authority of Abi Sa'id al-Khudri radhiyallahu anhu, who said the Messenger ﷺ said, "Ittaqu firasat al-mu'min, فَإِنَّهُ يَنْظُرُ بِنُورِ اللَّهِ." And then he read this verse, ثم قرأ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِلْمُتَوَسِّمِينَ. Beware of the inner sight of the true believer, for he indeed sees with the light of Allah, with his guidance. And he ﷺ then read verse 75 of Surah Al-Hijr. Indeed, in that are signs for those who are able to understand through observance. Now, it is part of wisdom that a believer does not embark upon an act, does not carry out an act, especially if it's important, except after consultation and istikhara, meaning seeking guidance from Allah through prayer, asking for Allah, Ya Allah, guide me to the best choice, the right choice. Should he find himself comfortable with the choice he has made and his heart at peace thereafter, he should embark upon it, placing his trust in Allah. Then comes at-tawakkul. Why then did Yaqub alayhi salam finally allow his brothers to depart with Yusuf? Allow his sons rather, to depart with Yusuf despite his fears? The answer to this is perhaps, or in fact this is a fact, as I mentioned in our previous lesson, that when a divine ordainment intervenes, it blinds the foresight and intelligence of man. Man is unable to divert and thwart the divine plan with his intelligence, knowledge and planning. If it's ordained, it's got to happen. The noteworthy point is that Yaqub alayhi salam had imparted to his sons knowledge which they would use against him. What did he say to them? I'm afraid that the wolf will eat him. What did they finally say? Yes, wolf ate him. The scholars and wise men have said that not all that is heard should be broadcasted, should be propagated. And not all that is known should be told or taught. It is the nature of the evil ones to construe wrongly and use what they hear and learn for evil purposes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His description of the believers says, in verse 18 of the chapter Zumar, Az-Zumar, الَّذِينَ يَسْتَمِعُونَ الْقَوْلَ فَيَتَّبِعُونَ أَحْسَنَهُ أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ هَدَاهُمُ اللَّهُ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمْ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. Those who listen to a word here doesn't mean one word, advice, and construe the best meaning thereof. Those are the ones whom Allah has guided, and those are the ones that possess intelligence. It is for this reason that the scholars have said that the impious should not be taught the concessions in religion, the rukhas, so that they do not abuse them. One should also be careful as to not let information that may be used against one escape to the enemy. It has been reported that some of the prophetic companions, it has been reported from some of the prophetic companions that the brethren of Yusuf alayhi salam did not have an idea that a wolf would eat a man, and nor had they conceived the idea of staining Yusuf's shirt with blood before Yaqub's mention of this fear of a wolf eating him. In the narration, it has been mentioned, Al-bala'u muwakkalun bil-mantiq ma qala abdun li shay'in wallahi inni la af'aluhu illa taraka li shaytani kulla shay'in fawaliya bihi hatta yushimahu. Speech is the source of bala, of tribulations. A man would not say with regard to a thing, by Allah, I am not going to do it, except that Satan takes a fancy to it until he tattoos him with it, meaning he instigates him to do it. In another narration, إِنِّي لَأَجِدُ نَفْسِي تُحَدِّثُنِي بِشَيْءٍ فَمَا يَمْنَعُنِي أَنْ أَتَكَلَّمَ بِهِ إِلَّا مَخَافَةَ أَنْ أُبْتَلَ بِهِ. I find my heart suggesting a thing, and nothing prevents me from speaking about it except the fear that I would be subjected to a trial because of it. We are talking here about the trials that come because of the words which we say, knowingly or consciously or unconsciously. It has been reported that Ibn Sikit, from the scholars of the Arabic language, well known, he sat with the Caliph Al-Mutawakkil one day. When the sons of Al-Mutawakkil, Al-Mu'taz and Al-Mu'ayyad arrived, they were actually learning Arabic from Ibn Sikit. So the Caliph Al-Mutawakkil asked, who is more loved in your presence? My sons, Al-Mu'taz and Al-Mu'ayyad, or Al-Hasan and Al-Hussein, grandsons of the Prophet, the sons of Ali, Karamallah wajhah, grandsons of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He replied, Ibn Sikki, the grave of the slave of Ali is better than you and your sons. I should not have said that. Al-Mutawakkil got so angry, he said, pull out his tongue from the back of his neck. I mean, you slit the back of the neck and you pull out the tongue from the back. And so his courtiers did it and he died that night. What is most strange is that Ibn Sikit, who was the teacher of the sons of Mutawakkil, had earlier taught them these lines of poetry while teaching them. That same day, he had taught them these lines of poetry, which means يصاب الفتى من عثرة بلسانه وليس يصاب المرء من عثرة الرجل فعثرة في الكول تذهب رأسه وعثرته في الرجل تبرأ على المهل. He said a man is afflicted because of the slip of his tongue. And he is not afflicted with the slip of the foot. A slip in the word he says, can make him lose his head. And a slip of his foot would heal over time. I mean, you slip and you fell, you got some injury, after some time you are well. But if you said something wrong, you will lose your life for it. And it happened. So Yaqub alayhi salam reminded his sons that danger would come to Yusuf alayhi salam when they are mindful of him. The response of Yusuf's brothers was, this is verse 14. قالوا لئن أكله الذئب ونحن عصبة إنا إذا لخاسرون. They said, by Allah, if a wolf does eat him, despite us being a group of 10 men, then we would indeed be losers. Now the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam sought to remove the fear of their father by saying that it was inconceivable, impossible, that a wolf would be able to eat Yusuf alayhi salam, especially when they were a large number. For they certainly would be able to defend him against any attack. It was also inconceivable that they would all be distracted from Yusuf. How can all of us be distracted from Yusuf? And so Yusuf will surely be safe with us. What did they mean or imply by saying, Inna idhan la khasirun? We would then indeed be losers. The scholars have mentioned a number of possible explanations. Firstly, what they meant was that we would then perish due to our weakness and helplessness. If we are so weak and so helpless, we cannot protect Yusuf, 10 of us, then we will perish. Secondly, that we would all then be branded as losers for having been defenseless when the wolf attacked our brother. Thirdly, that if we are unable to take care of and protect our brother, then how are we going to take care of our livestock? Our livestock will also perish. We take care of our sheep, protect our sheep from wolves. We cannot take care of one brother. Fourthly, that we have always served you, Yaqub alayhi salam, by taking care of the livestock and attending to the needs of the household with success. And if we were to be careless in our care of Yusuf alayhi salam, we would be losers for having blemished our good record. Whatever the case, this statement was made to convince their father to part with Yusuf, to allow Yusuf to go with them. And they had indeed exploited the gift of the gap to its fullest. They were very smart talkers, smooth talkers. And this underlines the extent of their trickery. Now, trickery and deception are the character traits of a hypocrite. And the Prophet ﷺ said in the narration recorded by Imam Muslim, "Man hamala alayna silaha falaysa minna, wa man ghashana falaysa minna." Whoever attacks us with a weapon, carries a weapon against us, attacks us, he is not one of us. And whoever cheats us, he is not one of us. In another narration recorded by Imam al-Bukhari, the Prophet ﷺ warned the believers On the authority of Umar ibn Khattab, he said that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, إِنَّ أَخْوَفَ مَا أَخَافُ عَلَى أُمَّتِي كُلُّ مُنَافِقٍ عَلِيمٍ اللِّسَانِ. The thing I fear most for my believers is a hypocrite skilled in rhetoric, very clever in talking. Another point worthy of note is that although their father had mentioned two reasons for his reluctance to part with Yusuf alayhi salam, they responded to only one and chose to ignore his mention of his attachment to him. Because he said, it saddens me to part with him. That part they ignored. Why? This was because their hatred and jealousy towards him was due to his attachment to Yusuf. And so they turned a deaf eye to it. Now this is how the desires of men, the diseases of the heart of men, stand in the way of truth. For he listens to that which does not suit, for he refuses to listen to that which does not suit his desires. And this is the root cause of all differences and conflicts. What does not? Is selective listening. What appeals to him, he listens. What does not appeal to him, right ear in, left ear out. He can't accept it, he can't even listen to it, he refuses to listen to it. Yaqub alayhi salam finally relented. He gave way and entrusted Yusuf alayhi salam to them. He really had no choice, for he would have sounded unreasonable after all the assurances. He alayhi salam perhaps saw Yusuf alayhi salam's eagerness to accompany them as well. He wanted to go out and play. He wanted to, see where they used to go and be with them. Any child would be excited by the opportunity to play. And it is the nature of the parent in these circumstances to relent, to allow. Besides, it is the nature of good men that they are not suspicious and always trustworthy of others. In a narration recorded by Imam Ahmad, the authority of Abu Hurairah, the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, "Inna husna dhanni min husnil ibadah." Thinking well and not being suspicious of others is part of the perfection of worship. And this character trait pertains to belief in Allah and in dealings with fellow men. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said in the narration recorded by Imam Muslim on the authority of Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, he said, I heard the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saying, 3 days before he passed away. 3 days before he passed away. None of you should die except that he thinks well of Allah. لا يموتن أحدكم إلا وهو يحسن الظن بالله عز وجل. Meaning what? Thinking well of Allah. Meaning have hope in Allah's mercy and forgiveness and not despair. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then tells us as to what happened after they departed with Yusuf alayhi salam. They have now taken Yusuf and they have left. فَلَمَّا ذَهَبُوا بِهِ وَأَجْمَعُوا أَنْ يَجْعَلُوهُ فِي غَيَابَةِ الْجُبِّ وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِ لَتُنَبِّئَنَّهُمْ بِأَمْرِهِمْ هَذَا وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. Verse 15. And when they took him, and they agreed amongst themselves to throw him into the depths of the well. And they did indeed throw him into the well. And we did reveal to Yusuf that he would inform them of this act of theirs at a time when they would be least aware. Now the narrations mention that Yaqub alayhi salam ordered that Yusuf alayhi salam be given a bath. Now the sources and validity of these narrations cannot be established with certainty, and they have most probably been passed down from the people of the book and the people who used to engage in the mention of these narrations, the Qasasin, who appeared in large and great numbers during the reign of the third Caliph Uthman ibn Affan. So these narrations say that Yaqub alayhi salam ordered that Yusuf alayhi salam be given a bath from a vessel which was brought by the angel Jibreel to Ibrahim alayhi salam when he wanted to sacrifice Ismail alayhi salam, and into which the blood of the slaughtered sacrificial ram, the male sheep, was collected. He also commanded that his hair, the hair of Yusuf alayhi salam, be combed and oiled. An oil that Jibreel had brought for Ismail from paradise be applied, and that kuhl be applied to his eyes, and the black thing, surma. It has also been narrated that when Ibrahim alayhi salam was thrown into the fire and his clothes were removed, Jibreel came to him with a shirt of silk from paradise. He wore that shirt, and Ibrahim alayhi salam later passed it down to Ishaq alayhi salam, and he passed it down to Yaqub alayhi salam, and then Yaqub had placed it around the neck of Yusuf alayhi salam as a form of protection or a talisman. The narrations also mention that when they were at a distance from their home, they threw Yusuf to the ground and said, "O possessor of the fake dream, where are the stars which you saw prostrating to you, doing sujood to you, so that they may save you from us today?" They started hurting him and beating him, and each time he sought refuge from one of them, he beat him too, and they only increased in anger. He started weeping and calling for his father, saying, "How soon have they forgotten their promise to you? If you only knew what these children of slave women are doing to me." Some narrators said that Rubil threw Yusuf to the ground upon hearing this and sat on his chest and wanted to kill him. He twisted his neck to break it, and Yusuf shouted to Yahuda for helping, saying, "Fear Allah and intervene between me and he who wants to kill me." And that Yahuda was the most compassionate amongst them, intervened and reminded them that they had given him their word not to kill Yusuf. And he told them to throw him into the well, and their anger subsided and they threw him into it. Now these narrations also state that as Yusuf alayhi salam was hanging from the sides of the well, when they removed his shirt to stain it with blood to show it to their father, he pleaded with them to return the shirt so that he may cover himself. But they refused, saying, "Call upon the sun and the moon and the 11 stars to provide you company." They lowered him halfway down the well, then dropped him into it to die. There was water at the bottom of the well, and he fell into it, and he found a rock on which he stood to save himself, weeping. His brothers called upon him, and Yusuf, thinking that they had finally taken pity upon him, answered their call, and they wanted to drop a rock upon him to kill him, but was stopped by Yahuda. Yahuda also used to bring food to him when he was in the well. Now these narrations have possibly exaggerated the enmity of his brothers to bewildering proportions and ascribed to them the most wicked and cruel of conduct. This in turn meant that they had embarked upon extremely grave sins, and therefore were deserving of the wrath of Allah and the most severe form of retribution. They also tell us that they had actually plotted to kill Yusuf despite their agreement not to do so. Or they also imply that they had actually plotted to kill Yusuf alayhi salam despite their agreement not to do so. Now the Holy Quran neither mentions nor implies that any of these events had taken place. In fact, it tells us that they had agreed to put him in the well, as expressed by the word يَجْعَلُوهُ, and not to throw him. Okay, not throw him. Yarmu is a word, but there's no yarmu there. Which should have been better indication of their true intentions if they had still sought to kill Yusuf alayhi salam. So these narrations have to be taken with a pinch of salt. The conduct displayed by Yusuf alayhi salam, as illustrated in the verses of the Holy Quran, also make it unlikely that he resorted to slandering his brothers by calling them sons of slave women. It does not befit the conduct of the men of God. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exhorts us in verse 11 of the chapter Al-Hujurat, O those who have believed, let not some men among you laugh and belittle the other men, for they may be better than them. And let not some women folk laugh and belittle other women folk, for they may be better than them. And do not make slanderous remarks. Do not make slanderous remarks at each other, and do not call upon one another with offensive nicknames. وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَلَا تَنَابَزُوا بِالْأَلْقَابِ. Ugly indeed is a name that connotes wickedness after one has believed. And whosoever does not repent from this conduct, those are the sinners. In a narration recorded by Imam al-Bukhari, Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu, in describing the conduct of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not one who used to insult and utter vulgarities nor curse others. He used to say, when admonishing one of us, what is with him? May sand touch his forehead. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam, by saying so, actually wished them good, for sand touched their foreheads when they prayed, when they did sujood. These narrations also indicate that his brethren did not know the true interpretation of Yusuf's dream. Whatever the case, there is no need to further exaggerate the sins of his brothers, for they are, as mentioned in this chapter, serious enough. Furthermore, there is no real material benefit to be gained from these narrations, and neither are they from sources which can be verified. However, it does remind us of the consequences of enmity, and a piece of prophetic advice delivered by him sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a sermon to his companions, as recorded by Imam al-Bukhari, is worthy of reflection. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, O men, do not seek to meet the enemy, and ask Allah for good health and well-being. If you meet the enemy, then be patient and know that paradise is under the shade of the swords, meaning in martyrdom. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam then did the dua, O Allah, who revealed the book, O mover of the clouds, and he who defeated the confederates, a reference to all the Arab tribes who had gathered together with the Jewish tribes collectively surrounded Medina in the Battle of the Trench in the 5th year after Hijrah. And he who defeated the confederates, the Ahzab, defeat them and our enemies and give us victory over them. Yaqub alayhi salam had entrusted Yusuf to them, and he was a trust in their presence, which they were religiously and morally required to guard, and they had promised to do so. The violation of this trust and their intention to break their word was a grave sin itself, not in any other sense. Imam al-Tirmidhi, he narrates that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Addil amanata ila man i'tamanak wa la takhun man khanak." Return the trust to he who entrusted you with it, and do not cheat whoever cheats you. And even if people cheat you, you cannot cheat. You should not cheat. These are in fact the character traits of the hypocrites, as mentioned by the Prophet ﷺ and recorded by Imam al-Bukhari, in which the Messenger ﷺ said, the mark of the hypocrite are three character traits, three traits. Ayatul Munafiqi Thalatha. When he speaks, he lies. When he promises, he breaks his promise. And when he is entrusted, he cheats. He cheats. As for their intention to kill him, which was later reduced to harm, we are also reminded of the words of the Prophet ﷺ recorded by Imam al-Bukhari, in which he said, and which I read just now, whoever attacks us is not one of us. Whoever bears a weapon against us is not one of us. Man hamal alayna silah falaysa minna. And Imam Muslim has recorded the following narration: whoever unsheathes his sword against us is not one of us. Whoever takes out the sword from the scabbard, he is not one of us. Man salla alayna sayfa falaysa minna. Basically, whoever bears a weapon to attack us. It has been reported when Yusuf a.s. was in the well, he said this prayer. He said this prayer. Ya shahidan ghayra ghaib, Ya qariban ghayra ba'id, Ya ghaliban ghayra maghlub, Ij'al li min amri farajan wa makhraja. Ya shahidan ghayra ghaib. O he who is always witness and never absent. وَيَا قَرِيبًا غَيْرَ بَعِيدٍ, and O he who is close and never far. وَيَا غَالِبًا غَيْرَ مَغْلُوبٍ, and O he who is always victorious and is never defeated. اجعل لي من أمري فرجا ومخرجا, provide me a relief and a way out of the condition I'm in. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us at the end of this verse 15, وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِ لَتُنَبِّئَنَّهُمْ بِأَمْرِهِمْ هَذَا وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. We reveal to Yusuf a.s. that you are certainly going to inform them of this act of theirs at a time when they are unaware of your identity. How old was Yusuf a.s. when he was thrown into the well? Some say that he was 17 years old. Others say that he was much smaller. An age closer to puberty would perhaps be more accurate, based on that which would be mentioned later. The next issue is, what does awhayna implies it here? Wa awhayna ilayhi. Literally, we gave wahyu to him, alayhi salam. Does it refer to revelation or inspiration, ilham? There is no clear evidence to indicate with certainty as to what it refers to. And thus both interpretations are equally possible. For this very same verb, awhayna, has been used to refer to inspiration, ilham, in the case of the mother of Musa a.s. and even the beasts. Even the beasts. However, some raise the question of the age of Yusuf a.s., if it's taken to refer to revelation. There are others who say that age is not a barrier. For Isa a.s. had received revelation when he was still in the cradle, as mentioned in verse 30 of Surah Maryam a.s. قَالَ إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ آتَانِيَ الْكِتَابَ وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا. Isa a.s. said, I'm a slave of Allah, and He has given me the book, which is Revelation, and made me a prophet. Now this form of revelation can also be construed to be a one-off thing, meant to serve as glad tidings and as a mark of having been chosen for the greatest of divine favors. There is no doubt that in the case of Yusuf alayhi salam, he would have assisted him in living through those years of hardship. Now, trials become light when one knows with certainty the great reward that lies at the end of it, and that alleviation of the difficulty he is facing is certain. He has got the yaqeen that that difficulty will be removed. On the other hand, a single day of trial would appear to be like a year if one does not have hopes, does not harbor such hopes. The same scenario exists regarding why those who are strong in faith and have conviction in meeting Allah find it easy to obey Him and to strive in His cause. Allah informed Yusuf alayhi salam, whether it's by way of revelation or inspiration, that he would inform his brethren about what they had done to him at a time when they would not even recognize him to be Yusuf alayhi salam. This clearly meant that he would pass through the trials safely. This can imply that Yusuf alayhi salam was commanded by Allah to keep his whereabouts secret. And it was because of this that he did not seek to inform his father of his whereabouts, despite his knowledge of the love and longing of his father for him. It also implies that Allah had ordained to test Yusuf alayhi salam and his father with his separation and with those years of sadness. The second possible meaning that can be construed from this part of verse 15, لَا تُنَبِّئَنَّهُمْ بِأَمْرِهِمْ هَذَا وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ, is that you, Yusuf alayhi salam, would indeed inform them of this act of theirs, and they, his brethren, were unaware that Yusuf had received his glad tidings through revelation. The benefit of it remaining a secret is obvious, for they would have otherwise sought to kill him, so that their treatment of Yusuf and their plot would not be exposed. It would also have increased them in jealousy and anger, and this would only have made them more determined to carry out their initial plot to kill Yusuf alayhi salam. The test that Yaqub alayhi salam was subjected to bears a great similarity to the one that was faced by his grandfather Ibrahim alayhi salam, who was told to slaughter the only son he cherished, Ismail alayhi salam. It appears that when Allah loves a servant, He is courteous of him. He demands his undivided love. And thus did He test Ibrahim and Yaqub alayhim as-salam. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said in a narration recorded by Imam al-Bukhari, the authority of Ar-Rad, the scribe of Al-Mughira, from Al-Mughira, who said that Sa'ad ibn Ubadah said, if I see a man with my wife, I would strike him with the sharp edge of the sword. These remarks reached the Messenger of Allah, and he said, are you all amazed by the sense of honor of Sa'ad, which is actually the Arabic word is Ghaira, referring to the vigilant care and concern brought about by the sense of honor. By Allah, I have a greater sense of honor than Sa'ad, and Allah's sense of honor, the Ghaira, is even greater than mine. It is because of this sense of honor, the sense of honor of Allah, the Ghaira, it is because of the sense of honor that Allah possesses that He has forbidden all shameful acts, the outward and the inward. There is none more accepting of an excuse than Allah. And it is because of this that He sent the messengers as givers of glad tidings and warners. There is none that loves praise more than Allah, and it is because of it that He has created paradise. In a narration recorded by Imam Ahmad, on the authority of Abu Hurairah, the Prophet ﷺ said, a true believer displays a sense of honor, which is ghairah. And Allah too displays ghairah. And part of Allah's ghairah is that the believer does not embark upon an act He has forbidden. It is also indeed the sunnah of Allah that He tests His chosen slaves. In a narration recorded by Imam At-Tirmidhi, the greatness of reward is proportionate to the greatness of the trial, or the severity of the trial. When Allah loves a people, He tests them. And whoever displays pleasure, he earns Allah's pleasure. And whoever displays displeasure, he earns Allah's anger. Just as Ibrahim a.s. was honored for the patience he displayed, there is no doubt that the patience Yaqub a.s. displayed throughout those years would have raised him in stature in Allah's presence. The next point worthy of note is that throughout the episode, there is mention of only Yaqub a.s. longing and sadness, and not that of Yusuf a.s. What is the reason for this? Was it because, unlike Yusuf a.s., who was sure through the revelation he received in the well that he would be reunited with his family, and that Yaqub had no such knowledge? This is unlikely, for Yaqub a.s. not only interpreted Yusuf's dream, the later verses tell us that he had said to his children that he knew that which they did not, when they blamed him for his display of longing for Yusuf, which implied that he knew that he was safe. As we proceed in the episode, we'll find this to be very clear. Is it a manifestation of the attachment and concern parents show towards their children? Is it Allah's intention to tell us of the effect of love upon men, especially love for children? If love for fellow humans, for children, has such a profound effect, then what about those who are steeped in love for Allah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then tells us that Yusuf's brethren returned to their father after carrying out their plot against Yusuf a.s. in the evening, weeping. وَجَاءُوا أَبَاهُمْ عِشَاءً يَبْكُونَ. They came to their father after sunset, crying. We will continue inshallah next lesson.